Welcome, everyone. I think we should start. We already 13 past 2. My name is Nabil Mansheri. I'm Senior Advisor with the EIT Raw Materials. And welcome you all for this sixth online event of the Rare Earth Roundtable series hosted by EIT Raw Materials for the Magellan project. Today's, the Magellan project is Horizon project joined by different partners across the Europe, looking at rare earth permanent magnet, especially on the recycling issues. The project is coordinated by Orano, and EIT Raw Materials is a consortium member. And today's topic is financing the European rare earth ecosystem around permanent magnets. As you know, rare earths and rare earth permanent magnet is a very critical strategic sector for Europe. And the Europe rare earth ecosystem for permanent magnet especially is at a pivotal crossroads because of several reasons, geopolitics, technical, and others. And this present both significant challenges and promising opportunities for us and for the stakeholders. While substantial public and private investments are being mobilized to develop domestic manufacturing and recycling capacities, and much of the financial support remains focused on research and innovation. If you have seen the funding, largely the funding in the past 15 years. But a key obstacle remains the financing gap between research results and industrial scale deployment. So we thought we would discuss the main issues, main topic around this, and where we have, the agencies to organization who fill these, research funding gaps, and also, shape the policies around these policies. So here today we have 4 speakers, and we will largely explore how the current financing landscape supporting scale up in the permanent magnet sector, and also what financial tools and investment models are needed to enable commercial viability, and how policy and funding frameworks can be better aligned to the industrial realities. So here we have 4 speakers, as I mentioned today: Etienne Boyer from the CEA, France, and Massimiliano Piccani is from the French investment bank BPI, France. Then we have Rosalina Di Sando from Meta, who is representing the European Commission on the Horizon Results Booster projects. Then my colleague Didier Zimmerman, who is the Director of Business Development and Fundraising at the EIT Raw Materials. So I would give the first stage to Etienne Boyer to give his perspective. He is a fellow at the CEA and currently holds the position of Exploratory Program Director at CEA. And he holds a PhD in chemical engineering from the University of Sherbrooke, Canada. At the CEA, among other things, he represents CEA in European organizations such as EIT, EDA, European Defense Agency, IAMI, the Innovative Advanced Material Initiative, and so on. He also acts as an expert within the framework of the European Innovation Council. So where his expertise largely aligned with what we're going to discuss today. And I invite Etienne to have his presentation. Etienne, floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Nabil. You can hear me?
Yeah.
That's
maybe
okay.
Hi, yeah. Sound a bit more. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So thank you, Nabil, for your kind introduction.
Yeah.
So I will try to answer your the different question you raised. Maybe if you allow me, I will start with a small introduction to present who we are. CEA, the French Atomic and Alternative Energy Commission. CEA, it's an old organization. This year we have the 80th anniversary, and it's a major organization, what we called in the European wording the RTO, Research and Technology Organization, which is working in the best interest of the French state, its economy, and citizens. Thanks to its strong roots in fundamental research, it is able, so CEA is able to provide a tangible solution to meet the needs in 4 key fields, which are low carbon. First one, low carbon energy. It covers both nuclear and renewable energy. Second topic, main topic, is digital technology. Third one is technology for medicine of the future. And the fourth one is defense and national security. What is important also to mention, maybe to better position CEA, our motto is from research to industry. And to give you more information about our organization, so we are roughly 22,000 people. We have quite a lot of industrial partners, more than 700. We were involved in the creation of more than 250 startups since 1972. And a way for us to valorize know-how is our patent portfolio, and we are generating more or less 600 patents per year. Now, a few words about, because we are working the frame, we are talking today in the frame of a European project, so the Magellan project. CEA is pretty active at the European level. CEA is the 3rd beneficiary of European funding, so according to the data coming from the Horizon Europe. And we are active in all the different pillars of of Horizon Europe. First of all, scientific excellence. We're involved in a couple of ERC projects. European industrial competitivity, 2 different clusters, 4, 6 clusters. And within the 3rd pillar, which is Innovative Europe, so EIC and EIT. It means that today we have currently around 450 European projects which are running. And to finish about our organization, to better understand our position, we try to cover a large TRL range, so roughly from 1 to 5 or 6. Thanks to, first of all, we have internally a fundamental research division where we can start at rather low TRL, so 1. And we have also technological platforms that allow us to progress in terms of TRL till 5 to 6. So I think it's rather unique in the European panorama to have a RTO which can cover such a large range of TRL. And I think for us, what is very important is to work in a scale as close as possible to the industrial scale. So that's why our technical platforms, I will say a few words afterwards, are really key for us to work with industrial with the same capacity, and those platforms are acting as pilot or a pre-pilot scale. And this is really a playground for collaboration with industrial in order to speed up the industrialization by solving a couple of issues, and among them the scaling up issues. Now, the first question is how the current financing landscape is or is not supporting scale up in the permanent magnet sector. If we are looking at the European scale with Horizon Europe, I think Horizon Europe is, especially through the Pillar 2, is well designed to help in the first step of the scaling up in the permanent magnet sector. I think so. Magellan is a good example. But I think we have to keep in mind that collaborative research, at least for us, is key. Anyway, it's in our DNA to work with industrial, with other partner, to allow to progress together and to reach the different steps in terms of TRL level, and to accompany the companies, which can be startups, SMEs, or even or large groups. I think also what is really important, at least for us as a ARTO, is to get the support from research development and innovation through 100% subsidies for us, so for public bodies. The third point, which is very important for us as well, is a need to work within the framework of public-private research partnership. And I think that's really key when, especially in that time where we are preparing the next framework program, the 10th framework program. So it's important to keep in mind this element. In terms of landscape, I think it's also important to mix the national financing tools with the European one, and we have to find a way to be complementary, to have a synergy between national, European, or even regional funding. And maybe as an example, so we are today around the Magellan project, which is a European project led by Orano. For example, in France, we had strong tools which have been developed the last few years in order to help the reindustrialization of our country all around key topics. And permanent magnets was one of them. And together with Orano, we are both involved in a national project, which is, say, complementary with Magellan. It's a Magnolia project, where we are really setting up a platform, a pre-pilot, which allow us to work on the shaping, the synthesis, and the shaping of permanent magnet, and also working on the recycling. So the past, what we are focusing on, namely the close and short loop path through the powder route. So it's really a nice, I would say, alignment between national funding and European funding. Now, maybe the problem, or one of the issue, is the step forward. As soon as we have made the proof that we can work at within a pre-pilot, so our pre-pilot will allow us to produce up to 4 tons magnet a year. The next step is the industrialization, and maybe this step is quite complicated, at least for companies which are not startups. We are lucky to have in Europe and also in France a lot of tools to accompany startups, but I think we need also to I think to support all players. So, or in other words, to say we have to reach a good balance, or I would say maybe a synergy that has to be found between the involvement of startups and also established economic players like SMEs or a large group. And I think that's to me, that's my vision. It's a missing point. And we have also to help, or the funding tools should help or catalyze the process to yeah, to help to install collaboration between startups and large group, as soon that there's no competition. But I like this word synergy, and I think it's very important to set up this kind of tools. I think, yeah, the what we call for us the valley of death in terms of TRL level, it's yeah, usually difficult to pass because this step, when we are increasing the TRL level, the funding level is maybe one or at least one order of magnitude higher in comparison to the former steps. So I think we have to, yeah, to pay attention, and especially in that time when the Commission is shaping the next framework program, to keep in mind that we have to work together, RTOs. As I mentioned, we have, and I'm talking for all the colleagues, the Fraunhofer, the other colleagues in Spain, and so on. We have platforms. We are ready. We are ready and willing to work with industrial to share their problem, to try to solve their problem. And I think this strong collaboration has to be kept in the next framework program. At least it's a key for the success. And maybe to give you maybe a last example. As you probably know, in France, we are lucky in the regarding the topic of magnets production or recycling. We have two big initiatives around two startups, so MagResource and Carester, and we are very happy for that. And I think both tools coming from European level and from national level helps a lot to set up those two initiatives and to help them to grow. And I think RTO, like us, we can act as a backup or a support for those initiatives, because I think when you start a startup, the focus is really to progress very shortly in order to produce. And thanks to the platform we have, we can help, I mean the RTO, we can help those startups to continue to innovate. And with our tool, which are very close to the industrial tool, and so we can work together, production, and continue to progress in R&D to increase the differentiation of the startup. And in the same way, as I mentioned, the nice example we have with Orano is also to work with large group and to push forward the idea we have together in order to make them real. So yeah, thank you. I think
thanks, Etienne. Very good insight on how Europe can excel in this field, and synergizing between private and public partnership, but also next framework program that's, maybe published by next week. Some real input for that, the national synergy between the national and the local or regional European funding agencies. So I forgot mention that, the question, the audience can put your question in the Q&A chat. So we will take this all the questions at the end of the presentation, or for our excellent speakers finish. We'll look at the questions and we will raise this for you. And the next one is thank you again, Etienne, for joining, and please,
Welcome.
we'll look the questions at the end. So the next one is Massimiliano. He is from BPI, the National Investment Bank from France. And he also a PhD in nuclear engineering and physics at Politecnico di Milano and École Polytechnique in France. And he is currently responsible at BPI France, the French Public Investment Bank, as I mentioned, for innovation projects that we're currently discussing, and financing on critical metals, small and advanced modular reactors, and building energy efficiency. And since June 2025, he's also the French national contact point for Horizon Europe Cluster Climate and Energy Program. So Massimiliano, thanks again for joining us, and please start your presentation. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this invitation, and good morning to everybody. So I have already been presented, so I will not waste any time on this. Our activity, as you mentioned, Bpifrance is the French Public Investment Bank, and we operate on behalf of the French state in order to finance many innovation projects and more than this. Maybe the presentation, the slideshow, I cannot see it.
Can you share your slide?
No, sorry, I can't because I have a problem with my laptop. So if you can do it, otherwise.
We can do it. Abuzar, can you open his slide? Yeah.
Thank you very much. As I was saying, so we are a fully state-owned bank, and our mission is to support the national French ecosystem of enterprises, both on innovation, which is more or less our primary mission, but also on the clean energy transition. We want to behave like a climate bank in order to foster all projects that enable the French enterprises to decarbonize their assets and their processes. We also act as a main support for export for French bank, and we also have many other activities in consulting in order to help French entrepreneurs to go towards profitable markets, and in order to adopt the way of work in this new world, to get market and to have proposal for the digital transition. This is our main mission today. Within this mission, we also have, as I said before, a role like operator for the French state in order to deploy financing investments, both via funding, grants, loans, or equity investment in the framework of France 2030, which is a huge investment program from 2021 to 2027, which is aimed at supporting and fostering the evolution of the French economy in many subjects: digital, green transition, batteries, nuclear, and of course also in terms of critical raw materials. I see the presentation is coming, so yes, you can go ahead, please. So the second slide is about what thank you. Please go ahead to the second slide. Perfect, thank you very much. So this is just activity in 2024. In short, 60 billion injected in the French economy. Those of them 24 billion in financing on PME enterprises or big companies, 22 billion in export financing, so to help export, as I said, 4 billion in capital investment, and 9 billion guarantees for credits. And of course, other activities like accelerating, so consulting for enterprises and other kind of network supporting. So we can go ahead to the following slide, please. We deploy a continuum of support for innovation, so starting from creation, innovation, financing, guarantee, equity capital, international, and any kind of support, economical support during the life of the enterprise. So our idea is really to be able to support economical actors during all their life, and this approach is for sure deployed also when we want to help enterprises working on developing solution for rare earths and permanent magnet. So we know today that this is a very critical subject because we need both innovation, development of new processes, study of the capacity, how to recycle permanent magnet, how to deal with rare earths in order to have a sovereign approach and reduce our dependence on other countries. This needs R&D, this needs important investment, capital investments in CapEx and OpEx. This needs the creation of industries, industrial sites in Europe and in France also, of course. And we have all the instrumental, the financing tools in order to accompany these companies all over their life. We can go to the following slide, please. So just a few, very few elements on what we already funded. As I told you, we have a strong support to innovation and industrialization for clean energy transition. This is one of our main targets. This is target, as I said before, which is fully compliant with the France 2030 investment plan. This is something that will in France Relance, which is a financing plan that we had just after the COVID crisis. And the idea is to help with public funding all those companies to de-risk the starting of their activity in many sectors, and of course also in sectors like permanent magnet and rare earths. So what we funded in the past, of course, Project Magnolia, which is a cooperative project led by Orano, but there is also CEA and other actors within this project, which is mainly aimed at R&D for magnet recycling. We had several funding on R&D and industrialization of MagResource, which is an actor. It is actually a deep tech startup stemming from some processes developed by CNRS, which is the French National Research Center near Grenoble, and that nowadays is becoming an industry. So they had a huge needs in terms of developing R&D, aging, elevate maturity like TRL levels, and then start building up an industry. And of course, we also funded Carimag, which is another actor that is quite well known, which needed process development and industrialization. So we were able for all this project to put some funding, mainly as grants, but partially also as loans, in order to help these actors starting the journey as a company, de-risking the processes and starting putting on the capex, necessary capex for the process. Please take note that this financial aid is under state aid regime. So of course, we are not going to completely and totally fund the needs. We can fund a part of the needs, can go up to 30%, let's say, on average, of the financial needs. But this helps really these companies to start their activity. Of course, as a bank, we have also other financial tools. We have loans on generic kind of loans that can be mobilized for this company, especially when there is a new industry which is put on. This is a typical loan for innovation or new industry, and it is also guaranteed via Invest EU program. So via the fact that there are some financial availabilities from the European Union.
I think he lost connection. So let's see if we can join back. We will start with the next presentation. I think we will go for Didier. Let's if Didier, you can start sharing your screen, but meanwhile I will start introducing you.
Good.
Yeah. So Didier is my colleague, and he is the Director of Business Development and Fundraising at the EIT Raw Materials, with over 10 years of experience in the various roles within the EIT Raw Materials. And he has been actively supporting companies, research institutions, and technology organizations in the raw material and functional material sectors, helping to build collaborative projects and identifying high potential startups. So Didier will cover, our portfolio, our funding mechanism from the EIT raw material side, and what are the main projects that we funded, and also, the potential opportunities for the participant, to look for. So Didier, the floor is yours. Please start the presentation. We can see your slides. Yeah, maybe in the full screen. Make it full screen.
Yes, let me give me a sec.
Yeah.
Full screen. Let me check on my side.
Sorry, Didier, just to say I just came back. Please go ahead and I will finish when you finish. I'm very sorry, we had some technical problem here and our connection went down.
Massimiliano, we starting with Didier, so I'll come back to you after his presentation.
Fine, thank you. So I'm sorry again.
Yeah.
Good, can I go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so what can you see on my screen? The 4 pillars, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's see. I don't know for what reason I cannot put on full screen. Okay, is it fine for you?
Yes.
Okay. Let me check. Yeah, something is going wrong on my. Okay, so thank you, Nabil, for the introduction. But before I will go to the main topic, I mean, let me just present you the main 4 pillars of a value proposition, which in fact contains the fact that we do facilitate access to finance, access to funding, and I will come back to this during my presentation. But we also do provide an access to knowledge, meaning access to startup, because we have supported many hundreds of startups in the last 10 years, and we have a strong portfolio of startups that could really make the difference when any kind of companies, large industry or SME, wants to develop a new product or be on a new market. We also are developing a strong platform for giving access to business intelligence in the raw and advanced material sector. On access to network, it's one of the most recognized, I would say, added value we bring into the raw materials value chain. We do interconnect people from, I would say, north of Europe to south of Europe, but also from exploration mining to recycling. It is very important. And at last but not least, I would say access to talent. We have in the past set up many EIT level master program, PhD school, and so on. And you probably know that we have been awarded, to coordinate and to manage two of the most important academies, one on raw materials and one on advanced materials. And this is something we are starting this year. So you can see we have a full range of services we can provide to the raw material sector and to the advanced material sector. And one of these I will develop today is the one on access to finance and funding. And mostly I will come to the access to funding for innovation. And thanks to Etienne, we really introduced the topic of this valley of death, where we are well positioned, I would say, with what we name here the booster, the ERMA booster, the upscaling call, and the RISC-KAVA call. And I will come back to this. But you can see that in summary, I mean, the booster is mostly dedicated to startup. It's for a startup to really finalize a proof of concept. The booster is for one entity, which will be the beneficiary. And then, I mean, we have the KAVA call, and the KAVA call is for a consortia where you have 3-4 partners inside, where you have the main aim, which is to scale up the technology, meaning scaling up from a TRL5 to TRL7-8. And where, once again, you can have a university bringing their expertise, but you can also have RTO, and this was well mentioned by Etienne, bringing their tools, their platform they have to scale up, but also, I mean, the talents they have in their own organization, because it's not only the tools you need, you also need the talents who can operate these tools and this platform and these demonstrators and so on. And it's where effectively we bring people together to scale up in a short time, 2.5 years, 3 years, a technology from 4 to 8. Where do we stand? We have now a track record, I would say, of nearly 10 years. If we look at all these numbers, you will say, okay, where should I start? I will bring you through. So if you can see here, we have supported more than 300 new products to the market. This is a KPI, one of the strongest we have from EIT, and we have to align with these strong KPIs. And in the last 10 years, these are the numbers. So we have been able to facilitate the introduction on the market of 300 new products. We have also supported, you can see, I spoke about this booster where we support startup in the phase of proof of concept and scale up. We have been able to support more than 800 startups, which brings us to a very large portfolio. We have also been able to take equity in some of these startups. Sometimes there is opportunities to jump in and even more to support them being in the board of this startup. And these are, I think, the main numbers that illustrates our capacity in the last 10 years to support innovation for startup, for SMEs, but also for large group. So where do we stand today? We have open call for innovation. We name it the KAVA call for innovation for scale up. You can see in a nutshell that we are supporting from TRL4.5 to TRL7.8. We are funding at the level of 2.5 million euros. It's a 2.5 year project. We are requesting 30% of co-funding from the partners. And we also do request a solid market analysis to really, I mean, support this kind of organization. We do not only support it for, I would say, the major countries we have in Europe on raw materials, but also we are supporting what we name these risk countries, mainly, I would say, the countries which are in the Balkans, but also Italy, Spain, south of Italy, where we want on one side to first, I mean, bring people together. This is the capacity building project we do support. And then we have also this innovation call for consortia, where you have sometimes a mix of company organization coming from these risk countries, but also we support and we really advise to have also companies from Western Europe to be part to find the good mix, the good synergies, and to bring these SMEs, most in this case, to a much higher level of innovation and competitiveness. I told you this call are still open. You can see that we have since now 2 years implemented a call with many cut-off dates. So every 3 months, organization can apply to this call. We are now in a situation where we have closed the 3 first cutoff. You can see here. We are been selecting 16 projects in the 2 first one. We are currently in the evaluation of the 3rd call with very good proposals we have. And the next cutoff, 2 cutoffs will be one end of August and one end of November. And more information you will be able to find on our website. But for just to give you some indication, I mean, if you would apply to the cutoff, which is end of August, then I mean the evaluation will take place in September. In October, November, we will have some back and forth with you and select the best ones that I mean could start maybe even earlier than January 2026. But I think that 2026 January is a suitable date for the start of the project. So it's something you have to keep in mind that there's still 2 calls, 2 cutoffs open for this RISP project, but also for this upscaling project that can help you to drive your technology from material 4.5 to material 6.7.8. What is a good project? It's something that may help you. I mean, if you want to apply, first it has to bring innovation. Okay, we are part of the Institute of Innovation and Technology. We need to show that there is an innovation, that is brings competitiveness to the SMEs or to the startup or to the large company. It has to show, I mean, what makes this very unique compared to any other kind of technology which is already on the market. The second point we're looking at is the complementary of the team into a consortium. Not only in the team, but also among the consortium. Do we have the right company for the commercialization? This is very important. Do we have the right universities and RTO to bring expertise, to bring tools, to bring engineering and so on? This is also very important. And we are asking the question, I mean, yeah, why would this team deliver the results? So we are very challenging the consortium, and we have, compared to many other, I would say, EU initiatives, what we have in place. We have in place what we name today is the key account manager. It means that we have in place in each country at least 1 or 2 business developers who are supporting you in developing and drafting, developing the consortium, and also responding to you in any case when you are applying. And at last but not least, I would say the market is also very important because we want to create impact, and impact is also based not on the innovation on the commercial part and the consortium, but it's also based on if there are a market, what is the size of the market, are there competitors on the market, and what is the access to the market. If it's a company who has already effectively some business in a market, it's maybe more easy than for a company that is starting in a new market. So these are the 3 main I would say topics we are looking at when we are evaluating a proposal, and it should guide you in case you would like to apply to the next application. The type of project we do support, this is one project we have selected at the first cutoff. It's about magnetic cooling, so it's you can see very innovative. It's even a breakthrough technology, I would say, in the cooling. With 40% more energy efficient, 0 global warming, and low pressure water-based system, which makes a real difference in terms of maintenance and operation safe and cheap. So This is typically an SME. We do support into a consortium where there are many other partners that are supporting this young company to scale up this technology and to bring it on the market. We are very proud in the fact that if you look today at this strategic project, which have been selected by the European Commission, you know, there were two cases. First, I would say the European cases, 47 project, and then there was also this call open to non-European cases. So at total, 47 EU project-based project and 13 non-EU based projects. We looked at this project and we were very happy to see that many of these projects, I would say even most of the project, we are known because we have, you see, we are in contact among these 60. We are in close contact with nearly, I would say, 45 of this project. But if you look to the funding, and it comes back to my previous to my presentation, if we look, for example, to the 47 EU project, EU strategic project, we have been strongly involved in 20 of them by the fact that we have been in the access to funding for innovation in all these projects, and you can see that it's a number of nearly 35 million euros we funded for this nearly 20 projects. So it means that what we have in place since many years creates impact by the fact that these projects are coming now to a maturity where they are close to the market and where they are today identified by the Commission as being a strategic project for the Commission. I spoke a lot about access to funding for innovation, and let me bring you to the last slide of my presentation, which is much more on access to finance. Okay, once you have a technology that is scaled up, then you have to develop your pilot plant, your industrial plant, and then comes the fact that there is another valley of death, I would say, which is the canyon. I would say the canyon of finance. You have to convince investors, you have to convince off-takers that your future facility, speaking most about industrial facility, it could be a mine, it could be a refining, it could be a recycling company, facility, sorry. This had a need of nearly sometimes 300, 400 million euros for refining, recycling, and it can go to 1 billion for when it's mining. And what we have started into ERMA, which is a European Raw Materials Alliance, we do manage is to have a set of experts that do assess these projects. And do assess this project mean that they give the guarantees, they give some facility, I would say, to this project owner to go on the market and to look for off-takers and for investors. And this placed us in a position where today the European Commission has mandated us to coordinate what we name the CRM facility program, which is a very large program that aims to secure the supply of critical raw material for the EU industry from non-EU countries. Meaning that we are looking today at these many countries you can see on the map, which are countries with which the Commission has signed an MOU, and for which we have started this year to look at many business cases in mining, exploration, but also refining and so on. To look at them, we are in the phase of assessing them, of shortlisting them, and the next step will be to facilitate the access to finance. And we are organizing a business mission. We are organizing business-to-business conference to bring together non-EU project owners, once again, in mining, refining, smelting, with European companies, for these companies to secure the supply of critical raw materials by being an off-takers, for example. But also we can support, we can also bring universities around the table. We can also bring RTO around the table, universities for, I would say, the training of people in these countries, but also RTO to bring the technology people need in these countries, because, you know, these countries don't no more want to simply supply the ores, minerals and ores. They also want to add some added value in their own regions, and meaning that they want also to escalate this value chain by being involved in smelting and refining and so on. So this is where we have a very strong start. We have had yesterday the steering committee where you can see we have DG Grow, which is part, which have DG INPA, we have DG DG NIR, we have also DG Trade and so on. It's a major program for Europe, and we are very proud to be in the managing, in the lead of this project, with the support of another KIC I should mention, which is a KIC InnoEnergy, that you probably also know. And with this, I think that we have a complete, I would say, a portfolio of funding capacity. Once again, the booster for the startup, the scale up for the SME, startup and large industry. And now we have the same facility, which is in the ERMA, which is to support the access to large investment for these companies to implement their facility on the ground.
Thanks, Didier. A great presentation. Yeah, we have a couple of questions that I will keep it for the end, a bit late on time. So now I request where we stop with Massimiliano. Milano, maybe within 5 minutes, you could
Yes.
finish your presentation. Let me,
Yes.
yeah, let me share.
I'm sorry again.
Yeah.
So I was just mentioning the project we already funded and what we are going to do in the next months, which are the current funding opportunities which are open. First of all, I would like to mention the fact that we have a second call for project, which is open for critical raw materials. It is always in the framework of France and Entrant funding program, and of course, it is the slide, the following slide, please.
Yeah.
Once again. Thank you. So this call is open, and of course, all actors, French actors that want to participate can participate to this call, and in order to secure an amount of funding for the project on rare earths. And of course, I wanted to mention, as we have this role of national contact point for Horizon Europe Cluster 5, climate and energy, and industry, that within Cluster 4 industry, there are 2 calls that are open. The first one is technologies for critical raw materials and strategic raw materials from end-of-life products. So this is suitable for permanent magnet recycling. And another call, which is strategic partnership for raw materials, innovative approach for sustainable production of critical raw materials. This can be also interesting for rare earths. Moreover, there is a co-fund partnership on raw materials for the Green Deal and digital transition, which was commonly known as ERAMIN, which will start in, which have a call actually in opportunities. Once again, these are grant opportunities in order and loan in order to the risk. There is the need, and it was correctly said by the other colleagues in the panel, to have equity and more private equity, private capital coming within this project with correct state framework, but I think that we are working on it. So I'll stop here, and sorry again for this technical problem.
Thanks, Massimiliano. Let me. Yeah, for a great presentation for this technical issues that's always happen with somebody or someone. That's the limitations we have. So next one is last but not least, we have a very good presentation from Rosalina Di Santo. She is representing Meta, which is a sponsored, European Commission sponsored organization to manage this booster call. It's largely funding scheme, additional funding scheme that the raw material sector always look for, or the Horizon projects always look for. So she experienced in managing projects, initiatives, stakeholder and strategies at EU level. She's currently performing as a senior project manager at Meta, appointed to the Booster Initiative since 2021. And so, Rosalina, the floor is yours, and please present. Hope you can
Thank
share
you.
your screen. Yeah.
Yes, I'll try to share my screen. And here it is.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yeah,
Yes.
you can make it full screen. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Nabil, for your introduction. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. I'm indeed pleased to present you the initiative by European Commission, the GRTD, which is the booster. First of all, it is important to know the context in which this initiative was conceived by the Directorate General for Research and Innovation. Indeed, the transforming project result in concrete benefit for the society and the economy is now a must. And since the impact of research project depends heavily on dissemination and exploitation strategies and actions, European Commission, the GRTD, conceived this initiative. This initiative includes free of charge services, and it's aimed at maximizing the impact of research funded under FP7, Horizon 2020, and Horizon Europe. Project can apply to benefit of the services, can be both ongoing or close project, and also can come from also indirect funding, like a joint undertaking, partnership, and of course, EIT KICS. To give you an overview of the structure of the booster, it is important to mention that we have two core services, which are the dissemination support and the go-to-market support services. And then we have the add-on services that I will illustrate you in a minute. So first of all, starting from the dissemination support service, it is important to know that this expert support is actually focused on helping building a dissemination strategy, and it also provides support in upgrading the existing dissemination plan. It also includes the feedback on the results that are published on the Horizon Results platform. Then we have the go-to-market support service, which is, of course, the other core service. And this is structured in different modules. As you can see, of course, we have different focus, but starting from the exploitation, of course, principle and concepts. And then there are modules focused on the unique value proposition, on the key exploitable results, and also on the business planning and access to other funding. It is important to know that the services and the modules can be chosen by the project and by beneficiary with the help of a mentor, which will guide the applicant throughout the booster journey. Before starting to illustrate the add-on services, it's also important to conclude the go-to-market services, saying that, of course, in this support service project will benefit on more clarity and analysis on the identify the key exportable results, and then will, of course, focus on the unique value proposition, and this helps, of course, get a tailored support, which will help in the go-to-market process of the project. But now let's go to the add-on service that are included in the Booster initiative. First of all, we have the networking service, which is support in building an outreach plan. Then we have the portfolio analysis, which is a service that actually helps building a project group, therefore identifying projects which have the complementary and similar results and put them together. Then we have the intellectual assets management, which is a service focused on intellectual property rights and guidance in this very vertical aspect. And then we have the coaching for public speaking, which is a service that will help the beneficiary to know how to pitch in front of investors. And also then we have the audiovisual support, which is a service that will assist project creating a video which will have the primary purpose of being uploaded on the Horizon Results platform. So these are the services included in the Booster initiative, but it is important to know also that from the beneficiary side, actually the dissemination support and add-on service can require from 2 to 4 equivalent working days, while the go-to-market service can be estimated to require an effort that ranges from 4 to 8 equivalent working days. It is important to know that the services are structured. Of course, there are tools and methodology which are standardized, but at the same time, tailor-made according to the need of the specific beneficiary. It is very easy to apply for the Booster service. I repeat, these are free of charge services. And through the website, it is possible to submit the application, which takes really a few minutes because it is enough to, of course, detail all the information regarding the project, like the grant agreement and so on and so forth. After the application is submitted, actually, there is an eligibility check. So European Commission will check whether the project is eligible to benefit of the services, and this check might take from 10 to 10 days. After the application is validated by European Commission, then the mentors are appointed for the entry-level consultation, which is the first service and which is the actual service in which the project can agree with the expert, the services to be included in the service roadmap. And then after the entry-level consultation is concluded, the service roadmap agreed can start, and therefore the service delivery will begin. Of course, it is possible to request the exact timing in which the services will start. So also in this sense, it is tailor-made according to the time and to the needs of the beneficiaries. At the moment, we have supported more than 2,000 projects, and we include in the initiative more than 200 experts which are delivering the services online, therefore in a remote way. And it is important to know that this is an initiative that is a kind of coaching and, of course, guidance that is not replacing the work that should be done inside the project, but of course is a learning experience that can then be replicated for other key exploitable results, not exactly analyzed during the service delivery. If you want to know more about the services and the initiative, we have also info sessions. The next one is scheduled for the 24th of September, you can find more information on the Booster website. And this will conclude my presentation. I thank you very much for the attention, and I thank you, Nabil, again for inviting me to this roundtable.
Thanks, Rosalina. Very good perspective on the booster, how to access it, and what is the procedures. Thanks again for joining us. Now we will look at some specific questions that we received for all the speakers. Maybe my colleague Abuzar can have a look at the question, but then I will see also some questions in the chat. Maybe I can start with Etienne. Etienne, thanks again for your presentation. Maybe do you have some concrete model to suggest, for example, how to have the synergy between national financing tools and at the EU level? Because that's always we work in the silos. So can you propose something from your side, or you have some experience in that?
I think to have a real synergy and therefore a complementarity, we have to. So I mean, our country have to strongly contribute to the to the European strategy, and therefore it's easy to be aligned and to act with complementary tools. So I think so Massimiliano explained what BPI is doing. I think it's really complementary with what can be done with the different European tools. So it's to be. I think the question is really to be involved in and connected. If you are designing your own strategy in your corner, I think it's not so. And when I say we have to be connected with Europe, say we have also to be maybe complementary with neighbor countries, with Germany, for example, with Italy, and so, and that's a way also not to waste money, to be very efficient in the use of public money to help to grow startups and to push forward the topic of permanent magnets, which is key for Europe.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Etienne. And like Massimiliano, also BPI, you showed some good case of funding. Was of the grants is as a national investment bank. Can you give a bit more on the loan? So what are the specifications for the European projects? Yeah.
Well, first of all, the state aid we gave were partly grants and partly loans with let's say discount rate that were close to those that are proposed by European Commission. So it's bonifié, we call it. Of course, if we deploy other kinds of financial instruments like classical loans, bank loans, there is the need for the bank, not only us as public bank, but also for commercial bank to ensure that the company will give back the money, that the business plan can be solid enough. And this is mainly dependent on the fact that all critical materials, and especially rare earths, are commodities which have a very strong exposition to geopolitical situation and to the economic situation. Therefore, it is important for us, once again, as a public actor, to ensure, to secure the fact that those companies are able to deploy industrially and are able also to deploy their business plan in an European framework, and then the project can become bankable, and then they can also get loans from commercial banks and not only from us.
Yeah, and is it you are open only for the French projects, or is it also open for other European or non-European projects?
We can fund only French project as a French public investment bank, but for sure we are following what.
Your sound is breaking again. Yeah.
Hear me? Yeah. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah. We miss you in between. Yeah.
Can you
Go
hear me
ahead.
now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So I was saying we can help only French actors, but of course, in together with the European Investment Bank and other European funds, we can participate in funding larger European consortia.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that. It was not clear. Maybe we could reach out. Some of them could reach out to you by email. So Didier, again, thanks from your side on the questions. So especially some of the projects funded by the EIT, do we have strict rule for the TRL level that we only fund if the projects are reached at certain point, especially for the upscaling, or is it flexible for the TRL level that we look?
Yeah, I mean it's flexible in the way that you saw that we do finance from TRL 5, TRL 4, I mean TRL 8. So there is space in between. I mean for each of the project, but I mean we are very strict on this two endpoint. It should be at least TRL 4, and the best it should go to TRL 8. But once again, there is place in between. And we are looking at the best projects, the projects that have a real potential of impact. We know that we are one part of this wall. We are one brick. There are many other bricks. We had the example coming from BPA France, with other ones. But what we want to do, we want to make sure that we can bring added value with what we are financing. And to make sure that at the end, this will be on the market and create impact.
Yeah, thanks for that, Didi. And Abuzar, can you look at do you have a chance to look at the questions? And please raise this.
Yes, sure. We do have some questions, and some of them I think are already answered.
Yeah.
Maybe one for Athene. I think you answered this question. What's your strategy on if you see generating spin-offs out of your RTO technological developments? What's the scale of converting research into potential spin-offs, potential SMEs? Do you have some concrete numbers or some successful cases to present?
So you mean in terms of creation of startups or of spin-offs?
Yes.
So as I mentioned in my short introduction, since 1972, we launched more than 250 startups. And I would say most of them have been created in the last 20 years. We have different tools. For example, we have an internal tool which is called Magellan Call, like your European project. And the idea is to push some of our researchers. We are willing to create their startups, and they are accompanied through through formation, through education, in terms of business, and we can help them to mature their idea, to reach maybe a higher level of TRL. That's one way to valorize our know. Or we can also, we are also doing this way, we can license some of our patents or sell our know-how to external partner who want to use our Arnaud, so it's really open. We are really open to work in different way. The most important to us is to try to valorize what could be valorized either inside a CA or outside, and that could be at the national level for sure. The prioritization it's at national level, but we can also work with startup order which are not in our country. So it's really open. We are very flexible, and we are used to work with different ways to valorize the innovation we are producing.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Then I have a couple of questions to Rosalina. It's kind of complementary. One is that are projects funded by, for example, funded by EIT eligible for the services from your side, but also, and a couple of smaller questions. When are the applicants expected to receive an answer after the submission of their application? And is it possible to apply booster anytime, or is there a specific yearly application deadline? Like Didier has for in the EIT case have different cutoffs. So is it also same for the booster? So maybe all these three short questions you can answer.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Nabil, for the question. So first
Yeah.
of all, yes, EIT projects are eligible to benefit of the booster services. Then once the application is submitted, actually the applicant will receive an answer in 5, maximum 10 days, with an answer, of course, on the eligibility. And then the third part of your question is really a pleasure for me to announce that actually the booster is up and running until 2024. And there is no deadline to apply to the booster. So many projects that are benefiting of this initiative by European Commission advise also to apply as soon as possible and then schedule actually when to benefit of the services. Because this is, of course, possible to foresee also the start of a service for next year and to plan in advance the service delivery. So there is no deadline for the application, and the initiative will be up and running up until 2028.
Yeah, thanks for that. And Abzar, any further questions from the chat?
Yes, we have one from Zainab, please, if I'm not pronouncing it correctly, but this is more related to the investment and policy. She's saying that is there any plans or discussion about imposing limitations or restriction on China because they are dominating this sector throughout the value chain? And is there any competitive strategy in Europe to fight against this Chinese well-established state-backed dominance in this sector? So I think this is an open question to anyone can jump in.
Maybe this is, I don't think this is the right platform to answer this. We're looking for the funding. It's not a geopolitical or trade session. I think we should not answer this at the moment. So any other questions?
I see another one from Imans, but it's also on the value chain. There are several neodymium iron boron magnet producer in Europe, Vacuum and Neo, already, and several recycling initiative. What about more on the upstream? So more on the primary production. I think that mostly relates the potential in Europe for rare earth mines and how you can process it from ore all the way up to
maybe this is
I think Carester topic. Kermec can really come up over
yeah,
here.
it's all three, Didier and Itine and BPI can also address this. We have been on the largely the funding has been on the downstream or R&D research and innovation side, but they're asking, what is the potential for upstream sector, or either mining or processing side. Didier, you want to start?
Yeah, I can start on this. There are some companies, I don't want to name them, but in the north of Europe who have this idea to start mining extracting earth element. They are welcome. I mean, if we can support them in developing some technology, because once again, I think what will make it very different from the competitors is the level of innovation. Also, I mean, full alignment with ESG and so on. So I showed you we have now a toolbox that can help this organization with access to technology, access to real breakthrough technology, to startup, access to talents and so on. So we can bring a full portfolio of services, and we are ready to do it. And I think we should not only focus to innovation, but once again, we should focus also on talents. How can we bring talents? How can we reskill, upskill people in this industry to make sure that these companies will have all the tools to compete with the companies or the country who is today have a kind of monopolist dimension on magnets and earth element. So it's coming. Like this, you also know that I told you that we are in this process to assess business cases on mining, extraction, refining, which are outside of Europe. And I believe that this also could contribute to revitalize the raw materials value chain in Europe on magnets and earth element, because once the big players in Europe will have some secure supply of these critical raw materials, it means that this will be also something that will help to rebuild this value chain in Europe, because what is important in Europe, and it's not only for earth elements and magnets, is to rebuild this value chain and to guarantee that each I would say segments, each organization in this segment has on one side a secured a feedstock or supply of the raw materials or feedstock, and the other side, I mean, the customers, and which are in Europe, because it doesn't make sense to produce materials to send to China and come back.
Yeah, thanks, Didier. Itine, you want to complement saying or your experience on the upstream? No.
No, maybe on the upstream, I think there is in Europe there is a missing step, which is how to pass from rare earth oxide, sorry, to metals, which is a key step if we want to try to cover all the value chain. But maybe this missing step will be completed soon. I hope so, in Europe.
Yeah. So thanks for that answer from your side. Maybe a final question to Rossellina. Then we close the program. So is the boosted application process competitive, or is it available to all applicants, or at least all the Horizon projects that already funded? So maybe with that
all eligible project can benefit of this initiative, and is not competitive based the application, meaning that it's enough to be an eligible project, and then of course your requests will be validated and accepted. That's why we also already served many projects, more than 2,000, and it's important to know that it's not competitive based.
Yeah. Thanks for that clarification, and I think we are well on time. There is no more questions, relevant questions. So I again thank all our panelists and speakers, Itine and Rossellina, and also my colleague from EIT, Abuzar. for organizing and being part of this this webinar series. And I also thank Orano and Orano team for largely organizing this as part of the Magellan project. We will announce soon the next one. And finally, I thank all the participants. Hope you had a nice, interesting discussions. You would get back to us on funding opportunities, collaboration, cross-European collaborations and the projects. Thanks again, and see you next time.